Nowadays, whenever a black person stands up and makes a unifying black declaration, there are usually those among us who will say that we're not actually black. We need to stop using that word. Others will say that we're not from Africa. We are instead the true indigenous Americans. Many will now insist that we are the true Jews found within a Bible written by our most ungodliest enemies. Many will even insist that we are now our own worst enemies. Therefore, before we can even come together in the interest of truly liberating ourselves, we instead now argue amongst ourselves over which of those narratives is the true one. Our current divisive collective state is not some strange occurrence. It is by deliberate design. To understand this fact, you have to ask yourself, who benefits most when black people are divided and confused? The answer is clearly the white establishment does. Whenever an outcome occurs amongst the oppressed that benefits the oppressors, it is always by deliberate design of the oppressors. Presently, white propagandists works unrelentingly behind the scenes, perpetually spreading lots of false, divisive propaganda into the black communities. These men are the true reasons why the African American population is now more divided than at any previous time in history. The reason for this is because during the 1960s, the unified protest demonstrated by African Americans was extraordinary. It still remains unrivaled by any other group in U.S. history. African Americans confronted the U.S. system of white supremacy on all fronts. It was confronted through civil disobedient tactics, militant means, nonviolent protests, and with black lawyers litigating for equality within America's highest Supreme Court. Those strategies resulted in the enactment of many civil rights laws that improved the lives of all minorities. While all ethnic groups possess the ability to bring about real change within the U.S., only African Americans have produced such changes. African Americans had unknowingly proven themselves as being the greatest threat against the U.S. system of white supremacy. This is a direct quote stated by FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover, who said that the unification of the American Negro was the greatest threat against the nation. Logically, given that the government had deemed the unification of the American Negro as being the greatest threat against the nation's system of white supremacy, then logically, they're going to attack black unity. To not have done so would have been against the interests of the U.S. white establishment. And their monopoly over information that we receive provides them with the unlimited ability to feed fraudulent, divisive propaganda into the black community. They therefore fed lots of false knowledge into our communities. The greatest threat to the oppressed is not an ignorant mind. It's actually an ignorant mind that has been fed false knowledge. Because an ignorant person might continue to seek for the truth, but an ignorant person that has been given false knowledge, believing that it's true, stops searching for the truth, thus becoming stubbornly mentally enslaved by the false knowledge. The white oppressors have fed lots of false knowledge into our communities. And now we fight among ourselves over whose false knowledge is the true one. This is the intentional purpose why white oppressive forces have fed so much disinformation into the black community in regards to our plight and our condition. The goal is to spread so much disinformation into the black communities until virtually everything believed by the black population are lies that hinders our ability to unify and liberate ourselves from white oppression. It divides and confuses the black community to such an extent that we're not able to come together and make any sensible conclusion in the interest of liberating ourselves from white oppression. This was done to us in response to the unprecedented unified black protest movement of the 1960s to ensure that it never happens again. The reason why you're hearing this hidden truth from some random black guy on a social media platform instead of from our black leaders that are supposed to care about us is because we no longer have true black leaders. Our true black leaders have been assassinated. And those behind their assassinations have replaced them with their black puppet leaders who actually works for the benefit of the white establishment. Because I speak the truth, I have been the victim of death threats from white phone calls from white men. Even if they succeed, I still won't regret having spoken the truth, because I'd rather die on my feet telling the truth as a man than to live a long life on my knees being mentally enslaved by the white society's false knowledge. Thus, having lived my life being a white man's fool, it's time to wake up, critically think,